G'day, I'm Mark from Self-Sufficient Me, and I've got something very special to show you guys. It's my DIY, no spill, no mess chicken feeder, and you won't believe how easy it is to make. For literally years now, I've been trying to find a chicken feeder that is really no spill. There's been plenty of manufacturers that claim that their chicken feeder, a lot of them very expensive brands, are the best and they are low mess and low spill. When in fact, I've tried all of them. The treadle feeders, very expensive, couple of $100. The PVC feeders, the standard chicken feeders, all of them are all quite messy, believe you me. Because what happens is, with these types of feeders, is the chicken comes along, they rake back looking for their favourite feed, for their favourite seeds, and obviously this is designed so that as the feed gets raked, more feed falls down, and then it builds up on the edge here, and they keep raking, and then it starts to fall out. Now, there are some people, that say you put a lip across here, it might help. But essentially, it just builds up to the lip and then falls over as well. And it helps a little, but it doesn't solve the issue. They all do make a mess. I have to say, yes, they are good feeders, but if you don't mind feed getting raked out all over the ground, well then that's fine. But for me, it became a bit of a problem because it attracts rodents, attracts wild birds and other critters, and I really wanted to find a solution that stopped my feed getting raked out or thrown all over the ground, really to stop the waste and to make a better feeder. So anyway, I've designed a feeder and I call it the chicken bin feeder. It's pretty simple. I'm going to show you how it works, and then I'm going to show you how to make one. It's very easy to make. Look, if I can make a chicken feeder, anyone can. Now I know what you're probably thinking. This is just a bin, a rubbish bin with a hole in it. I've just wasted 3 minutes of my time watching the start of this video. But let me assure you that it's a lot more than just a bin with a hole in it. I've tested this for a number of weeks and it's surprisingly good. This is the smaller version. The one before that is the standard bin size, about a 50-litre bin. This one here is just made from a 4-gallon bucket, and you'll be surprised that that little feeder there holds 5 kilograms of, or maybe 10 pounds or so, of feed. So it's not a waste of space at all. And the other bin, the large bin, actually holds up to 10 kilograms of feed, which is quite significant. So it might look like it's a waste of space and something pretty silly and just a bin with a hole in it, but in fact it really does work quite good. This footage here is of the end of my trial, where I've had 13 chickens and 5 ducks eating out of this one feeder, and it's lasting about 4 days. So let's go through a few of my video trial notes just to show you the feeder and show you what I was considering, and then we'll get into making it. So this has worked a treat, this bin feeder. It's completely empty. They really cleaned it up. Really cleaned it up. I'm surprised at how well they cleaned it up. So now I'll refill this because all these guys are hungry. So at this point I decided to weigh my large bin feeder just to see how much it holds. So So that's weighing about a kilogram at the moment. We're up to nearly 9 kilos. Yep. Yeah, about 8.5, 9. So we're looking at around, that's nearly 9, about 8 kilograms, because I didn't fill it right up. So probably 8 or 9 kilograms it could really hold if I filled it right up to the edge. And the chickens just eat through like that. In contrast, my treadle feeder holds a little bit more at about 15 kilograms, but my PVC feeders, they hold quite a bit less than that. They only hold about as much as my bucket feeder at about 5 kilograms or 4 kilograms of feed. And unlike those gravity feeders, when they drag and look for their favourite grain, they're not spilling more feed out of the feeder, because I fill mine up to about an inch below the lip, and that way they can't drag the feed up and out. See how there's no mess coming out? They'll still rake through looking for their seed, but they won't rake it out all over the ground. The ducks will take a mouthful and sometimes drop a few grains on the ground. You can't really prevent that. No feed is going to prevent that. But in the main, this is the cleanest feeder I own. And I can't believe that it was just a quick DIY jobby. It's easy for ducks to eat out of these things. A lot of feeders, especially chicken feeders, make it a little difficult for ducks to get their bill in and really scoop out a good amount of food. But this type of bin feeder lets the duck get into the trough, if you like, or get into the feeder and really get a good scoop of feed. Having said that, ducks will still drop grains all over the ground, whereas the chickens with this type of feeder, they won't make a mess. You don't want more than 6 inches between the base of the feeder and the lip here. Otherwise they can't get their necks down and get to the bottom of the bin. And so that's why the entrance here on this prototype is so large, because I kept modifying it and bringing it down, you know, when I was testing. So what I might do is put a bit of wire across just so that the smaller birds can't jump in. What we'll do now is get into making one of these feeders. I'll use the example in the top left, the small bucket feeder. I hope you don't mind the rain coming down on my tin shed roof, but I thought I would just leave this edited in because it was quite soothing when I was working in it, and I think it sounds okay. But anyway, I start by measuring my container 15 centimeters or about 6 inches from the bottom. As I explained earlier, you don't want it any higher than that because otherwise the chickens won't be able to reach down. I'll get my little template. Now this template here is about 14 or 15 centimeters wide and high. I'll say 6 inches again, wide and high, and then it's curved at the bottom. I just do that freehand. Then what I do is I drill a hole in each corner or thereabouts. That'll just make it easier for me to cut through the plastic bucket. Remember, this isn't rocket science here. I mean, I'm not the best handyman at all. This is something like anyone can do, obviously. The other reason for being about 15 centimeters high from the base is also to make sure that rats or rodents can't get in there.
And while I think of it, you can also put this container on a brick or a tile to get some extra height if you need to keep other critters out. Then once I've drilled the holes in, I use a box cutter or a Stanley knife in this case and just carefully cut around. You can use whatever tools you want to use for this. This is just what I've done. Other guys might have more elaborate tools, a jig or something that they can cut around or whatever, but the point is you cut out the template, and then you're obviously left with this gap. Now you can be neater than me. I just tidy this up a little bit to make sure that it's not too jagged. But at the end of the day, it is only a chicken feeder, so it doesn't have to be all that neat. It's only your chickens that are going to see it. The next thing to do is to put the comfort rail on the feeder. This is important because you're going to have poultry, chickens leaning over, especially when the bucket gets low, and they're going to be reaching in, scounging the last morsels of feed. If they are left to rub against a jagged edge of a galvanized bucket or a plastic bucket, then the poultry could end up with grazes on the necks or even worse type of injuries from that repetitive movement. What I like to use is irrigation piping, the stuff that you can use for washing machines to get rid of grey water. They sell it at the hardware stores. It's ribbed and it's easy to bend, and when you cut it to size and then cut it down the middle, it's really easy to press onto the area that you want at the bottom of the feeder, and it then sits nice and firmly into place. It holds itself on there. Then it's just a matter of doing the other side. I think only 2 sides is good. Then you can put a lid on it and protect it quite easily. You could maybe open it up to 4 sides, then it exposes a little bit more to the elements, but I think 2 sides is good enough, and maybe if you need more feeders because you've got more hens, maybe do that, make a few more of these rather than one big one with 4 separate entry points. One other obvious point I want to mention is make sure whatever container you do use is that the chickens can reach the centre from wherever they're feeding from, so that you're not using a container too wide that they can't get to the middle. You can use anything for a lid really to protect the feeder. So let's quickly recap. The height 15 centimeters or 6 inches high, and the hole 15 centimeters or 6 inches square, rounded at the bottom corners. And make sure the feeder you choose isn't so wide that they can't reach the middle. You could use, for example, this type of bin, a galvanized bin, cut a similar hole in it, 15 centimeters, 6 inches from the ground, about 14 centimeters or so across and high, and then use this galvanized lid as by fixing some perspex or some more tin to make a storm cover around this, and then you'd have a storm cover lid, if you know what I mean. And that could be a bit of a more elaborate way. Of course, galvanized bins cost more to buy, and it'd be more of an elaborate setup, but whereas these plastic bins, well, they only cost about $16 or $18 for a 60 or 50 litre bin. So they're quite cost effective, and of course they hold 8 to 10 kilograms of feed, and it's perfect. So there you go, an easy DIY chicken feeder that anyone can make. Low cost, low spill. What more could you want? You can make it out of a bin like that one, or out of a 4 or 5 gallon bucket, or pretty well any container you've got laying around. Or you could go more expensive and make one out of a galvanized bin and put a big lid storm cover on it, or whatever. The main thing is that
It can be virtually free, it's easy to do, and you don't have to spend a whole heck of a lot of money. I'm a little bit devoed that it took me about 10 years to work this out. It's such a simple idea, but it really does work. I hope if you're in the market for looking for a chicken feeder, you have a go at this first, because it just might save you a lot of time and effort, a lot of spillage and feed waste. Thanks a lot for watching. If you've got any questions or want to give me some feedback, chuck it down below. Otherwise, thank you very much. Bye for now.